we are just moving on to covering it with fondant. Okay, so I'm just going to turn over to show the ganache is all done. Okay, so I thought rolling out fondant should be not be a very difficult task for you guys. So I'm just going to show the thickness. Okay, it is quite as much as you would drape a cake. Okay, so that is the sheet. It is about an more. It is even less than 2 mm. Okay, so the ganache is done. Okay, so you can see the thickness, right? It is about an and a little more, not even 2 mm. 2 mm could be a quite thicker for this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you have to be always like need a very thin fondant. It depends on how and what structure you are building up, how the cake is, and all that. So based on that, you could decide. Okay. So now the easiest part is the back. Okay, so the ganache is done. I haven't refrigerated. It looks quite firm also because the cake was firm, right? It was chilled. So I'm just going to take the sheet of fondant. Just go ahead. X I will cut out. So I'm just going to go straight in. Obviously for the hands, I will have an extra additional piece only. So I'll just cut out here. Okay. And again here on the shoulder. I just need to go for the dress or the logic of how the shirt will be built. So I'm just going to be very sure about this line, and I will cut down this, though I could, try and maybe tell I could continue because part of the hands is covered, but that's not how the shirt works, right? So I'm just going to go find the shoulder here and then mark the shoulder. Okay, and then from the shoulder you could use a Dresden tool to be sure. First mark and then find out. And maybe if it is the marking is not right, then you could change. So this is excess. I will roll it up back again for the hands, right? So here I'm just going to go ahead and then cut. Just make deep cut. So here again, okay. And then here on the side, again, I just need neat cut. I'm just going to go. Let me just turn it towards my side, mark. I've just made a marking. I'm going to go deeper and then cut, and then remove the excess. Okay, so this part is cut and it is neat now, the back side. And now this part, okay, this part I just need to neat it out. So I'm just going to make a marking. And then go deeper. So here, I know just lower down. Here you can see the cake is seeing. What I could do, stretch this fondant itself a little bit. Anyway, the royal icing would come. So this part, I could just keep it a little open also. This part is fine. Okay. So front is done. The back is done. Now for the front, I'm just going to do it in two parts. Okay. Let me check if the height is enough. So it's quite enough. It's going to come in all the way till here. I'm going to try to move the hand. Torn up is fine. We could fix it. So not to worry if there are places where it tears up. It's obviously an uneven shape. It's not pretty much straightforward. Obviously, we'll just learn how to use it. Patch ups well, you could do. I'll just show you how to kind of gently avoid a lot of gaps as you're going to seal it. Okay, so the shoulder part will be there. Let me just clean up on the top. So I know where I have made the marking, right, of the previous cut. Make a deeper cutting for the hand. I'm just making a deeper cut. Removing the excess from here first. So here we would need a patch to work on. We could patch up and then seal the entire thing. So it's okay. So now if we have to smooth out fondant that is in an uneven, not the traditional way, you take the fondant of the same color, make a ball using the fondant itself, okay, and use that to smooth out. Is going to keep the ball there. Now in the gap here, I'm just going to try and bring the fondant close and this part. So wherever as much possible, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out and make it neat. I'm going to use both my fingers and bring the fondant as close. So I'm just trying to minimize the gap here. Okay, so this is this part. I'm just going to try and get it close. So without touching the ganache. So gently pushing from both sides here. So as much as possible, you try and seal. Later, we could just use gunge, which is the softening the fondant with little bit of water, the same color, and then make a paste and then go on top of it and fill it up. I'm just going to remove the excess ganache from here and pinch the fondant and bring it together. Okay, let's allow some time and then we just get back to smoothing this part. Now the front, obviously, I just want it to be cut in the middle. So I'm just checking the center. First, let me make a marking using the dressing tool. Okay, so once the marking is made, I know that this is right in the center. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut. Okay, and there is a bigger sheet here. I'm just going to cut that into two. So the other one, I'm just going to add it here. So here I'm just going to again try move the hands and get it tucked in under the hand. So you can see this side, it's kind of gotten quite straightforward, and that's a clean cover. Right now, here for the button, I just need to have a little bit of overlap. So I can just place the buttons there. Okay, so I'm just going to again find center with a little overlap. And then on the Dresden tools marking, with a bit of deeper cut. So this excess, I'm just cutting it out using scissors. And here again, at the joint, here anyway, the beard is going to come. So don't have to be worried about the front. Now here, I'm just going to go in. Then on the sides, just see where the overlap is. So you could just seal it. So it's kind of quite sealed here. I have a bigger portion of fondant lying here, right? I just want to check where it is attached and where do I cut to get that removed. Okay. So this side is quite straightforward and covered. And now let me cover this one hand first. let me have excess and then cut off. So I'm just going to have a joint on the inside. Now here, because it is the fabric, right? So it's okay if I'm going to have pleats coming in. Like say for example, so this pleat is quite fine. Okay, so this maybe I'll just work a little bit. So this I'm just going to leave, especially that is going to look pretty much natural. So the excess will be cut. Here also this pleat I'm just going to leave. This excess will be cut. I'm overlapping all this. I will just go ahead and chop off. Cut. Again, I want the joint to be exactly at the bottom. Right here, as I am folding and making the joint, if I'm going to get additional folds, I'm just going to be okay with that. And by the time you're working, if the ganache is dried up, you need to brush in some water, add moisture, otherwise the fondant is not going to stick. So you can see the folds, those I'm just going to kind of retain, trying to make it look like they are natural pleats. And certain pleats which look like, they are like quite too much and is not giving the natural effect. Obviously, I will remove it. This anyway, this part, I'll have the gloves, the hand, the palm part, no, that will be there. So we don't need red to cover that area. So obviously, because the fondant's thickness will help you to move and seal the ganache on the inside. And obviously, if you have excess, you could chop it. Okay, so mostly the inside is covered. On the outside, I'm just leaving it with a few pleats. So this one pleat, I just want to cut off because it looks a little too much. Okay, and now to the shoulder part. So we know exactly where we cut before, right? So just go a little over that. So we don't have to leave the ganache. So this excess, if scissors wouldn't pass through, I'm just sending in the craft knife itself and remove the excess. Moving on to the other side. Here just see where you've cut already and cut over that. Do not cut exactly on that line because then you might end up leaving a little bit of the ganache. Let's see. So now after cutting the excess, just go in and check and then seal all the ganached area and then push it from both sides and get the fondant to meet and every area is sealed. Okay. Obviously here I'm going to have the fur effect, right? So and here the palm would come. Okay, now for the legs. I'm just going to sit down and work on the legs. I'm going to go in one leg at a time, right? I'm just going to get the joint on the inside. Obviously here maybe not too much pleat, but then because it is the dress, if there are pleats, it's fine. If you do not want pleats, like if you're working on a structure where you don't want pleats, but then naturally you will have to end up having the pleats when you're going to cover up an uneven surface like this. I'm just going to show you one part. So what you could do where there is a surface like that, say maybe just the exposed skin part, and then you do not want the pleat. Now if you could see from there. Here the boot ends on top. We did have a very narrow part continuing the boot, right? So that I'm just going to remove off from the shoes. There is excess here. So I'll be needing black here to cover the shoe. Right now, let me finish off with the red part. All this we could patch up with more sheets, or wherever we are able to cover, it's fine. So wherever there are areas that are left uncovered, we will be covering it up. I'm just going to go from backward here like that. We're going to fold in for some time so it just sticks well. Just bringing in here to the front. You can see how it looks in the front. All this excess. Just going to get the excess out. I'm going to pinch where the leg ends here. See? Okay, and use the scissors to cut off. So basically, there is no one straight way to cover. Now, if you find an uneven surface, the first thing that you need to keep in mind is forget about a lot of pleats. Like, it is not going to happen straightforward like a round cake or a square cake. Okay, so the first goal for you is to go in and then cover up all the ganache surface as smooth as possible, as little gaps as possible. Just putting the fondant together as much, trying not to have a lot of ganache exposed areas. But on top of that, if you're going to have exposed areas that are not looking perfect, all that can be fixed. So the first goal here is to just look for excess fondant and then cut and see wherever you could join them into pieces, cover all the ganached surface is the goal. Like everywhere, you just need to seal every exposed ganache area. And now here, where the shoe comes in, which is this height here, Just sealing up the, if you can see. I'm not sure if you can see here. See, there is an opening like that. I can just use my fingers and then press it out first. If I press it out, then the fondant will blend and you don't have to cut off the excess. Sometimes you have pleats, just press it out. And also, you could dip your fingers into water in a small bowl. So the next step that you can do, so here there's excess hanging. Just start to clean up. So almost bigger areas are covered for the red. So mostly what I see is surface is looking uneven, and here it looks like it needs a patch. Okay, so this part I'm just going to cover. The ganache is dried out a bit, so I'm touching a bit of water. Obviously excess I will cut off. If it is a bigger patch, it is just going to weigh down. Okay, so I've just marked where I just need it. I'm going to remove the excess out so it doesn't weigh down. So I'm just going to turn it towards me. So I could just hold and then quickly cut off where exactly I need the red. I'm just covering up the ganache area. Okay. So going under and you could have a little bit of overlap. And now while doing this patch again, I have another patch here. It's need a bigger patch. I'm just going to show how we could, even after patching up, how do we get rid of the patch lines? So the first goal, so it's like, I mean, I can anyway cover up all the patches. Like, why can't I just start with patch? That you can't do. So the major places, which is the shirt and the back and the, the openly exposed areas, are all neatly covered. This part, I'm anyway going to have the royal icing, right? So this part is fine for me to have patches. Yeah, I'm going to need a longer patch. Start from here, right? I'm just going to cut on the overlap. So look for all the cake surfaces, apply water and cover it up as clean as possible. Have the cuts clean and stick it with water. So here on this side, there is, if you can see, here there is a very tiny exposed part that I'm going to show how to seal it with gunge. Okay, and here there is this part where there is a patch line here that you can see. This I'm going to show how you could just smudge using fingers itself and then water. Okay, so there are two ways that you could seal and make the entire thing a little neat after the patchwork is done. Okay, so for the bowl of water, I'm going to have just need to make the gunge in a very small bowl. Water is there. I just want to make the gunge using this, using a bowl, a small bowl or something, and a spoon. Okay, so the two ways, maybe you could put the fondant. What you need to do for making your own gunge is to uh, have the same colored fondant. This one is drying. Okay. You could put this fondant into a bowl, soften up, okay, and then add a little bit of water, okay, and then soften up. So you could also use your hands to mix up. So how much water? If there's a lot of water added, then you can add in some more fondant to that, or you could process this entire thing in your food processor and make a paste. You just kind of want it smooth without any lumps. So I feel this consistency is good to go. I'm just going to wash my hands, and you could use your hands, fingers itself. That's much more convenient, especially in places like this. Let me just look for the place I said I wanted to show. Okay, there is that bit here, right? So this is the bit that I'm just going to use to cover. Okay, now that's the ganj. I'm just going to take the ganj a bit and look for that spot and use that ganj and smooth out. Okay, so I could take the ganj and apply it. So it's more like how we did the ganache. So wherever there are imperfect adjustments that you made, in all those places, just use this ganj and then just seal it and smooth it. And that's why it's important to uh, not have it lump with the lumps. Okay, like bigger so for this there is a gap there that also can be sealed with. I mean, if that particular area you feel like initially, I mean, the rest of the fondant is all dried, and now this one has that moisture that is seen out. So we will be brushing the entire thing with Otka or Evaprex. Okay, so all this extra patchy will all be gone. So obviously here I just don't need, I'll be using royal icing, right? Okay, and uh, so that is one way you need to sit on the imperfect fondant edge, and after which continue to soften using your fingers. Like at that time, after the ganj is added, and still you have the surface uneven, right? So wet your fingers and then just go over it and then soften out. So that will smooth out the surface as well. Okay. Now, so that is one way of sealing a gap. Now here I said I could find this line here. Okay, say for example, we have this line and then this needs to be sealed. Like maybe you don't want that line to be there. Okay, so what we're going to do, again, dip the finger. I mean, it's the red colored water with the ganj. That doesn't matter now. That the color doesn't matter here. Now use your fingers, dip it in water, and then go over it and then smooth out. Now your finger has to be wet. So you can see how it is just smoothened out as I started, and then you can find it is so the joint will just get smoothened out. So that is why you don't have fear in patching. Uneven surfaces are not easy to go on with just a single cover. Okay, so you could see how initially, like you put in more pressure and then you can see the line is just disappeared. Here, if I had to spend a little more time and then work on, then this entire line can be solved. So there are three things where you can do to hide the imperfection as you're working. Obviously here, I will be having royal icing coming into this part. So I'm just going to leave that out now. And here I can this part right here. I am going to, I could have added fondant, but obviously I'm going to add a royal icing at this part. So I'm just going to leave that open. Okay, so the places where you're going to add another medium, then that you could just leave it out. And you don't have to cover. And the places where you have like smaller cracks opening up, then you will be doing gunge like how I've done here. And then the places where there are bigger joints, then you will be covering it with your finger to smoothen out with water and just get rid of the line. Okay, so then I think now we will need black. Just take this out. I've rolled out the black to cover the shoe area. Water and a bowl. You show the leg. So for one of the leg, I'm just adding water because by this time the ganache should have dried out completely. I could use a brush or handy to go in and then also smooth out. Then finger is also fine. I'm just going to use one black sheet to go in through. I'm just going to have it sealed at the back. I will be cutting this excess out. Also, I'm just going to make sure the shape is formed nicely, or if there are any air bubbles locked that I just need to cover up. Excess will be cut out. So this will be cut. For now, I just go ahead and then cover the other leg as well. So I'm just starting with excess fondant. So I have enough to go around till the back. Just cut off at the back and cutting off the excess. I'm just going to cut the excess out from here. So I'm just softening up and then giving the shape. So the black is cut out as well. We should cover the board also in black. We could do that in parts. Okay, let me just have the black rolled out. I have one sheet here, which I just used to cover the front of the board, for which I just need a brush. So I could just brush some water here. Just roll in some more black as thin as possible. So I could just use that to cover the board. Using a fondant smoother to smooth it out. The excess will be cut very close to the shoe. This part should be removed off. You could just push it closer. In case you've cut off excess, you could push it back. Just using the fondant smoother at an angle here. So it will just cut off the excess from the edge of the board. Okay, so then for the hand, we need white fondant. Okay, so we're just going to shape the hand. Okay, so in the meanwhile, let's finish up the board, because we're just working with black, right? Okay, so I just need to add fresh water here. I mean, if you don't choose to cover it with fondant, you have other ways of covering. You could just maybe add like a snowflake, for which you could powder the rice crispy, the puffed rice itself, powder it in the mixie, the food processor, and you could add some ganache and white ganache or even chocolate or water is also fine. You could just push in that. I'm just going to have the joints covered at least here. So in the middle, there will be a patch for sure. And I'm just trying to avoid that. So here the joint, I'm just going to cut. So I'm just going to try and match this up here. The joints you could press. You could still further work on to make it neat. Okay, so the corn flour marks and all that would go. And when the edges should get a little better. Okay, but for now we're just done with the job of covering the board. Obviously there is more work when it comes to finishing. You just need to push in and get rid of the ganache marks, and here we could just use the shaper tools to get it in shape. Okay,